Right, so here's my part 5 on our V Twin Pistons. Okay, let's see here. Just wanted to go over like when I paused last time, I made this sheet. I had started dimensioning out some of this maybe, and then I just pushed pause and I said I would come back to it, and I will post the imagery up of mine. Uh, coming up, I'll update my imagery on my assignment. Um, what I want to do, adjust my volume a bit. Let's see. Um, so I may have stopped my video when I was working on the piston, maybe, and this I'm not totally done with. I wanted to kind of talk through it. So um, I think I can't remember if I did. I think I did all this one on my last, just kind of showing how I start picking my dimensions, and I use for this first drawing assignment. I'm going to use kind of a loose ASME standard. I'm definitely following some of ASME standard. Maybe my spacings are what I'm a little bit looser, and I'll show you some things I can do to tighten that up. I mean, this view looks pretty good to me. The dimensions I've captured here, I've got my center marks put on. Um, the piston itself, I initially dropped this and I kind of oriented my part for this to be my front view, which is kind of looking inside the piston, which I can get to a lot of dimensions. And then I had this as my right side view. And then as I got down into the nitty gritty details of it, I'm like, oh well, I need a section view of this. I need to dimension the groove cuts. They're all at hidden lines here. Those grooves that we added for the snap rings here in the piston are not really dimensionable here. So it definitely is a place where I feel like what I'm going to do is I'm going to change and create this will be my front view. And so I may have to, redo this view in some ways. I can rotate this one around and have this one adjust, but really what I want is a front view at like this. And then I'm going to take a section view and expose that at section kind of as a right side look. I could look either way here. But I'm definitely wanting to expose these inner sides to dimension. So, just look at this as like if you're in CAD and uh and try to make some of those decisions. Sometimes it's not easy to see until you've made a decision and then you feel like, it's not quite right. These dimensions that got on here are pretty critical to carry over here and then add some new ones. But so some maybe some weird things about dimensioning this is, it's a shelled shape. So I definitely want to catch what that typical wall thickness is, so that everything around it is a tenth, and so that's an easy dimension to add there, and I've kind of added a local note to that. Um, I've got where I can, and it'll be better in my section view here, is that I can, uh, not everything that is cylindrical in shape can I dimension in its rectangular position, but I can do a fair amount, and that's what I'm trying to do is remember to anything that's cylindrical in shape or circular in nature is best to dimension it in its rectangular view with the diameter symbol. It will pick up some of this automatically as well, so just watch that. So I'm going to fix this view. I was going to go over to my next page here and see. We got to fix this, but I'll come back to that. I've dimensioned out the uh, the connection rods here. So I've got those dimensioned. I'm still just running a two decimal place or two decimal place dimensions on all these. And I'm going to keep that for a little bit here still. Mostly I'm just applying my dimensions and get my center lines on there. I've done a few, I've adjusted my center lines so they're overlapping, similar to how I would in CAD, to show that through. If I'm going to dimension this end, this is going to carry through over to here. Um, there's a few dimensions I feel like I start dropping that I may have added in CAD. You might be tempted to want to put like an end of this radius point out to this location. I'm not going to do that. I feel like I'm going to drive like these whole locations to me. There's their size. Here is their location. These two working together, and then this one here, hole to hole, is how I'm going to locate that. I don't know if there's value added in adding a dimension from the extreme radius of this back to the center. Really, I'd rather drive this dimension for maybe a center line between the part and that it's equal. Um, but some of that can be figured out here. I still feel like I've captured the necessary information for this particular part. Same with the crankshaft gets hard to mention. Um, And so there's a few things I want to show here, like maybe I'll try to mess some of this up, but I'm definitely looking at overall size, then each feature, its overall size. Got my center lines on there, side center lines through here. Just for note, it's kind of like CAD in some ways if you're using that center line command right here. If I pick these two surfaces, they're going to be, it's only going to reference the extension past the length of those lines. But these are grippable, right? So if I escape my dimension command now, or I escape my command, I can drag this through like that. So pretty manipulation there. A couple new things are like if I go to dimension something like this, it's not new. It's just that like if I add this dimension, this is what I was going to use as my controlling dimension for these gaps here, for these snap ring grooves. It brings up these dialog boxes. Pretty much every dimension that you will slap on will bring up this dialog box. It gets a little bit redundant to say, okay, but this gives you your chance to just jump right in. Of course, this is auto populate. Anything that's grayed out like this means that it's picking up, my reference. It's not something that I should manipulate here. It's showing that grayed out in a text dialog box means that it is picking up a parameter. That's the distance between those two lines that I selected. So I don't want to change that, but in front of it, I can add, just go in front of this. I can add text behind it, text in front of it. I just cursored over and said that these are, there's three of these. So this is just how I'd add my 3x, capital X. Sorry, I mean caps already. Like that, 3x at those. Okay. That's going to capture it's going to capture all three of my grooves. I've chosen to kind of dimension my grooves, from a surface that I've established. I'm kind of establishing it as, kind of a datum of sorts. The datums on this little part are maybe a little complicated to see, but I've definitely tried to say, okay, I'm pulling to this side of this groove at this dimension from this surface. So my next groove, I'm going to dimension to this surface, same surface to kind of the same side of the groove. And then the overall one I've got here. And then this is going to capture what these groove spacings are here. I don't really need to add those too redundant. Kind of dimension this the same way. I'm not doing the groove spacing. It's captured in the 3 each. And there's that space to that same side of the groove. So I'm kind of keeping some uniformity in how I'm applying my dimensions. This is kind of like Inventor does this kind of stuff for us. Like I've got 2 of these chamfers on this. I'm just pointing to one. I could really put this anywhere. It's kind of picking a place that tucks in since I've divided my sheet into different segments kind of with a border. But I'll just show you this command here is that, this is a feature note and Inventor will recognize these a little more intuitive than CAD, obviously. So holes and threads, but chamfer right here is the one I need here. Just that little bevel that I put on the end there. And the chamfer command, I will pick the chamfer itself. It's just a little bit funny how you pick the selection. Here is the chamfer that I'm selecting, and then it needs to know in reference to what, I guess. And I could pick this line, or I think this line, and let's just pick that one. And then here comes that little note. It's a 0.03 chamfer by a 45-degree chamfer, or 0.03 by 45-degree chamfer. And and so I can drop this. This is a place that worked for me to drop it. And then I can get back into here, just double click to get into it. It's a little bit different dialog box. And I have some other, but I can get over here to the front side of this and add my, there's 2 of these chamfers here. So that might be how I add those in. The radius, I had to add 2x in front of that one. The radius itself will pick up, it knows the difference between a diameter and a radius. So it'll usually apply the R and the diameter symbol without you having to do any special selection. Sorry, I dimension the same way here. I just blast my dimensions and I clean them up after. And so if you do that, there is some automatic dimensioning that can happen here, or spacings in some ways. And I don't want us to worry too much about this on this first spacing or on this first drawing. But if I had randomly placed these, however, like this, and they were at random spacings, if I select all these, I just hold down Shift. And as I select these, they stay highlighted. Maybe I'm going to leave this one off the selections at this point. But if I select a bunch of dimensions and I right click, of course, everything's buried in a right click menu. Here's my right click, and there's an arrange dimensions here. And obviously there's precision as well. Here's my arrange dimensions. it does kind of like do an automatic spacing to these, which is kind of handy. I use this more than I worry about ASME standards. And so here's where I'm actually going is like, bam. I think I'm gonna go to this one here. So it will like arrange. I usually use this not so much when I have maybe two like this, but if I have like a stack up of three, four, five dimensions, I like that arrange dimension feature to get a nice equal spacing on those. So that's handy. Anything else I did here? Similarly dimensioned here, you'll find me doing a lot more center to center of kind of whole round features than I did in CAD. Um, Probably it was because the nature of a lot of our CAD parts didn't always have radius edges to pull from, and you could kind of I just kind of avoid when a dimension really is from like the extreme part of a radius to that. It's not a super valuable added dimension to an inspector, especially. But you know, to me, when I have something that's of this shape, it's this is a better dimension. Those shaft spacings there, and if I wanted to locate those, like really, I almost feel like I could add from center of this part to there would be a better dimension than from the end to that part. So to me, that's the only thing I might add if I was being real critical. This might be me being a little bit lazy with these two dimensions and not adding maybe from center. This would have a center mark on it, like I could dimension. But to me, this is kind of also not a super normal dimension to add because it's not clear if that's in the center what I'm trying to do there. So unless there's a real good center mark, I just kind of omit that one, delete it. Escape my command, select, make sure you're not in the command if you want to delete a dimension, same way in the sketch, really. And um, anything on the wrist pin? No, it kind of dimensions similar to other than this is my front view and a single view. So this kind of shows the views I've selected and didn't really need to section any of these. I think that's my last page. Yes, I made like 5 copies when I did this. So now is the time I can start cleaning up some of this. So I'm not going to need this. I'm not going to need so I can delete it. I'll delete my fourth sheet is also an extra sheet, so I can delete it. I can't remember if I have to be off it to delete it. Let me see, delete. I think it'll let me delete it. Okay. Then it'll take me up to the next sheet. So I've got 3 sheets of information. An assembly sheet with the parts call out and list mostly is what that sheet's doing. And will drive my overall revision history. This one here is just going to be, I need to clean up this view. And the only thing I'm going to do here different is I'm going to if I delete this, I'm going to delete this unless I break it or make it the parent view. But there might be some hack method I can get to switch these view profiles, but I've just got to recreate this with this view and this right side view and get rid of just the non-section view, but include the information that I have on this view on this one. So that's what I'm going to do there. I'm not really going to go into crazy detail there. I will post the image of it when I'm done. And then back to and there. So one thing you'll notice is that I'm not giving a detailed view of purchased buyout parts. And that's pretty standard that this would not be these retaining rings. I'm not going to detail those out. I just have a call out and potentially I'm going to fix these a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. But I have a call out and I may have an ordering number and I could put that in the description. I don't want it to really probably say step AP to that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to change these so that they're called out correctly. I might even change the name of these so they maybe follow my normal parts number sequencing. Like my parts numbers always have this kind of prefix CAD 1122 piston. So I'm probably going to change these parts numbers to be like a CAD 1122 external, a CAD 1122 side mount external. Just something short that'll fit in no longer than these descriptions that I have, really. Just something short, kind of consistent. And then add some of this information into the description so that it shows up here. I can add in the description. I'll show you how to do that. Is just maybe it'll say McMaster-Carr part 9. It might have that number, that order number, and that's how I can say, oh, that's a buyout part. And I wouldn't normally detail buyout parts on a mechanical print, but I would maybe potentially need to know the part itself. Might need to know its information to order it for someone if they were looking at my parts list. And okay, and the other ones maybe need the kind of what they are. Like the description really, to me, like if this is just the default parts list that came up, item, quantity, parts number, description. I think I talked that we can modify this later. I don't need to go into detail, but if you double click into it, there is a whole process of like what I can add here. I can even create custom columns. And so, companies will really have probably a templated parts list they want us to use in order to get the information pretty consistent between drawings and that we're all using the same columns, using the same, you know, the parts number is the part number or what it's named at. Anyway, there's going to be hopefully a systematic system of how they want to organize their parts lists. Mine is just running the default. I hope. I don't think I've changed this. I'll have to let you. I guess we'll find out together next week if yours is not listing these particular columns because I didn't do any changes. I just kind of I just dropped my parts list from this assembly. But I want to refine this. That's kind of why I'm making this video more than anything, is just to refine some of the data input areas. So before I do that, maybe that's parts I properties that I'm going to change. Let's just look at what I can change here on the drawing, which is how to fill out maybe the title block stuff. So some of it auto-populated. It's already keeping track of my sheet numbers, 1 of 3. Even when I deleted those, it already has adjusted that for me. It's got a scale on here, and that's great if it matches my scale. Um, um, it's picking up the drawing number, which is what I've named this particular drawing that's what I've actually named it when I saved it, V Twin Pistons Assembly or CAD 1122 V Twin Pistons. And so that's auto-populating here. I need to add the revision number. And so that's going to be in its iProperties here. So if I go that, let's address that. Here's my iProperties for the drawing. And I'm just going to go in and look along these until you see one of the options is going to be revisions here, right? I think it's right here. Revision number will always start with 0, apply it, and I'll say close. And that's how I've got my revision number now, is in the iProperties. The title itself, I've populated this. Originally, I just said like B-size sheet. I think that's what the template has it as. And so how you switch that is kind of how we switched B-size sheets, like right click here and edit the sheet and I can change the name of that sheet. So this first one, I don't have any specific naming sequence, but I just said it's V Twins Pistons Assembly, V Twin Pistons Assembly, and so that works for me. Uh, okay. I was thinking it hasn't put me in as the drawn by number. I'm kind of surprised. And the author here, let's see, that's probably in its iProperties. I thought it auto-populated me. I am the author. This maybe is the one. Sometimes what is named in here doesn't exactly carry over to what it's named in here. So just sometimes you have to try an entry and see if that is what it changes. So if I'm the author, I'll just put my initials here and I'll apply this and see if that's what shows up. Yeah. So I am considered the author, which is in the title block is considered drawn. So I'm going to put in my initials and the date I think is populating when I save. Well, no, this is an old date. Yeah. So I should have that. I should have that here. Idaho State University, I think, is being populated here. If I change this, I think it changes it here. And this is where I change that. No. I changed the title over there. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. So I don't need to change that title. That's a little misleading. Part number is this. That's what I've named it. Stock number. Object. It does have me tagged as this designer. That's my real shorthand name. Here's the creation date, right? So this is what I definitely want to update. Dates are important. Don't just leave the random date. Looks like I can select today and I'll apply that. So there's better date. And finish all over material approved. I can get into these. Maybe it's in here still. Jeez. Right there. And I can actually enter this value. Maybe I'll put in ABS plastic. I'm going to apply. Maybe I have to hit enter on that. Yeah, I do have to hit enter and apply that now. I don't know if that's where I update that. Stay tuned for a minute. Just thinking. Okay, I'll look into this. It's been a bit since I've used this template. Let me hit close this. Okay. We'll come back to these. Let me look at my revision history one. Let me double click on this. I think I just had double click to change it. Did pick me up as the same author. Okay. I need to fix the date. I don't think this one has a date selector. I just need to type it in. I'll keep the same format here though. This will be first. And just single digits it looks like. By the last days of January gone. And the 26th. And then it's similar here. I would type something in here, once I'm done and ready for this could be, it'll probably end up being like something sent to production. Some disclaimer on Rev Zero, similar to what I was doing with my AutoCAD stuff. Okay, so what you'll notice maybe about yours that mine is not is that now I've got some stuff populating here. The scale, I think what automatically. Oh, so let me just show you something. If you click into this isn't necessarily where I click in and add stuff here, although this does get you into kind of an immediate edit. But I just want to remind yourself here that anything that's in gray is pulling from somewhere. So it's not that I want to go and delete that stuff that's in gray. Otherwise, I will delete kind of where it's pulling that stuff from. And so the first thing that's populating is the view identifier, and then a scale. It says scale in front of it, and then it actually pulls the scale in of the view. The description, that's an iProperties thing. So that's if I update the description in the part or in the assembly, both actually. Like this is an assembly view label, but I'll need to update the description here. Well, I did. I think I wrote in the iProperties on my assembly. I'll go in and look, but obviously I've filled out information that is now populated on my drawing. And then the mass, if I know the material, and so I think I've actually established. I don't think this thing has that. I don't think yet. The mass is not updated yet here. And because I don't think I've defined all the materials yet. So let me just show you. Anyway, some of this I'm not just going to go in here and fill out. I'm going to let it pull in the properties if I set them that way. So I'll say okay. I can see that I'm actually at yeah. Just say okay. That's my default. So let me jump over to my assembly where this is, and that's this one. Here's my assembly. So if I open up its iProperties, this is where I filled out a description right here, and that's what actually ended up populating on my drawing. So once I actually filled this out within this parameter, it auto-populated on my drawing. I'll go do that on another one. I will be able to update its mass and stuff here. And that's the last one, this physical column in the iProperties. I will be able to say update once I've set the properties of this. Let me go back over here. So really, I've got some work to do, just within the parts themselves to help me populate my list here. So let's do that. Let's go over from here. I'm just going to drive down. I think I did populate the piston case. So I would have just opened this, go into my assembly, open, here's my part. So what I did is I came in here and I went to its iProperties. You get used to doing this to your parts a lot. This is kind of how you fill out stuff. And this one has this name, but it has no description. And I feel like the description rules is generally what it's made of. I feel like in mechanical, our description columns are usually what the material is, and potentially the size of material. So if I'm like I'm just going to write an ABS plastic. Is that what I'm printing? It is ABS plastic. And so if I apply this, it doesn't look like it does anything here, but it will be updating on my drawing. And maybe I won't put a revision number currently on this part, but some places may keep track of their revisions on parts themselves and not just on the drawing. But stock number can definitely be unique to your company and how they issue numbers for what maybe they have a stock number for ABS plastic roll of it or something. I don't know. It could have a stock number associated with it. And so that's where I populate that. Is there anything else? Oh, and then I'm just going to go now that I've chosen that, or now that I'm saying that's ABS plastic. I feel like you can update that here though too. Let me just skip over. Yeah, and at least add in a description. and physical. Yes, I've gone in here and I've selected from this drop down list here, kind of like selecting up here, but it will update the quick access list as well. And so I went in here. This is generally where I'll pick my plastics is in the iProperties. And so my ABS plastic is an option. And then it automatically updated its mass here. So now this mass right here should show up on my print because that's one thing that I think I've told you that it's pretty common to like to know how heavy things are, especially when you're designing large stuff. Um, I mean, the mass isn't super important here, but well, it is important. But let's see here. So if I say apply, close that out. I'm just gonna go take a look at this part on that drawing now. So now I've got the description coming in automatically on my bill of materials as ABS plastic. And then I could add a stock number column. That's one of the things I could add is a stock number column to my parts list, and that would be maybe a company specific stock. But I like how this displays. It's using all my columns that are default: item, quantity, part number, and plastic. Part number being the name of the part, really. So the piston, I'm going to update that way too. I'll also go look at now what this did on its specific sheet, which is I think sheet two. Yes, sheet two, which I haven't finished naming, but here it is. It's kind of filled out the rest. It's still called View 18, which is fine. I may change the name of this, and how you change that name is really on the view itself. If you edit the view, this is the view identifier that is kind of default and part of my yeah. So I could change that here. Like view 18 doesn't mean much. Um, and and maybe I will because yeah, the other thing I thought I had on this template was the quantity here. Um, it's trying to think in my life if I'd like to have the quantity listed here. I know that it's captured in my, it's kind of redundant. So maybe that's why I didn't put it in here, but it's kind of redundant. Here's my quantity list actually right there. There's my quantity. So maybe in the view itself, I've chosen not to add the quantities. I could add it it could format my view label to include that. Hmm. I'll think about it. I'll just leave it as it is on default for this drawing. So, what we may do in the weeks coming is we may do a little formatting to this to maybe get it a little closer into ASME standard. Maybe use the right font type, make sure our font sizes are correct. It's been a minute since I was into these to see what I've totally changed. And so, yeah. And what I still might need to, but I at least like that I just want to at least show you what's preloaded in my template right now is and where that stuff's coming from. So, and I would be slightly tempted to change the view, but I could actually change that and format that so that it's pulling in the description or something, not the description, but maybe the part number would be handier. Um, So maybe I'll do that. Let's work on that together. Just at least that one. The one that bugs me out of all these is just the view 18 doesn't do a dang bit of anything for me. And so let me just see if I make a spot change on this, it won't. Let's just leave it right now. Okay. I want it to affect my whole document and not just like one view at a time. So stay tuned. Leave it like that for now. And then what else was I going to say? So I can see that this is now filling out. So I need to go through and do this for my other parts. If I'll jump back over to my piston case, when I updated it to ABS plastic, it kind of changed the look of it. I didn't change the view of it. I think it's just like the default when I went to ABS plastic, it kind of went to this smooth white. Um, and so I'll leave that right now. It's just smooth white. I would say some places use, a generic appearance. Some some places use color-coded appearances for different materials. So I think there are some strategies to maybe how their appearance. They don't always look for what the most realistic appearance is. Maybe not, right? So, and maybe not even the same color. I don't know. So I'm just going to let mine choose its default appearance. as I go through these. So this one I feel like is done. And then the other one I was going to work on now is, and you can see it changes the generic, whatever I was working with, unnamed material are these ones. It's just a little bit wider. And yeah. So let's look at this. I'm going to open this piston case here, or the piston, I mean. I'm just going to go into its eye properties. And I'm going to at least upload its description, the ABS plastic. I mentioned to copy that. So I'm going to do this a few times. I'll make a copy of that name. And just the physical. I think the only thing I'm really updating here is that up at the top of the list is ABS plastic right there. Its mass is being updated. I'll just say okay. I think that's everything that's going to be okay on my, yep, that's going to fill out the rest of my, at least my initial view label, and it should update my parts list to have a description. Okay, cool. Let's do the wrist pin. So I'm just going to go through and do these kind of part updates to help update my. Sorry, right here, right where? Description right there's the one I'm updating. Physical, I'm updating to ABS and saying okay. Back to the assembly. Go to this part. Yeah. So you open this. Let's change its eye properties. Have the same description. And material. Okay. What do I have? One more. The crankshaft. To be updated with material properties. Okay. I'm just going to go here and hit on my drawing. I'm just going to hit my mass update, and then I'm just going to hit save, and it should save all my parts. Like it knows that, from the drawing down now, assemblies and parts are all being saved once I hit OK. And so it's going to save those. So when you go to close all this stuff, if you've opened all that up, I always just go to my drawing, hit my save, and then all my little parts will close if I ever need to close them without asking me to save or not. So I usually save my file from my drawing. Yeah, the next thing I want to do is just worry about this parts list. I don't love these names, so I think I'm going to change these. However, some of it I need to keep. So let's go over here and see if how this affects uh, my overall part here. So if I think the best way I'm going to do this, if I pick this little ring here and open it up. And if you just do a file save as, let me look at its, first I'm going to go into its eye properties. This is the external. It doesn't have a size either. That might be kind of nice. This number I for sure want. That's the McMaster comment. I'll just make a copy of within itself here and say that its description is what I kind of want to update is that, and I hate that description. So I'm going to say something like McMaster car. I'm going to put a size though. This might be so let's see how this affects my column width over there. But the McMaster car, I could shorten that up to some shorthand. Um, but really, I want to know that it's like a 3/8 um, external. I mean, that's kind of a lot. It's a big description. Let me just apply this. I'm gonna go take a look at it on my drawing. Well, I'm gonna do one more thing and see if I can't. If I rename this, if I do a file, save as. I'm looking for a better name that matches the rest of these. So these are what I'm really using, and I think I can just say, oh, it's an external retaining ring, but I just want to change this as like kind of following my kind of parts number. Um, Maybe I'll just change it to all caps or something, and maybe I think I'm gonna do this as a shorthand too. It was called a retaining ring. I'll just say snap ring. It's my file name, really. Save it as it. Okay. Has to stay open. I just kind of want to see how this affects me. I'm not so sure it's going to totally did pick that up. It doesn't like that as the part number. I may have to go in and change that now to match the part name here. I don't think that automatically, um, we go into inside properties one more time. I'm gonna close this one and play with that just a little bit. When I do the save as, I don't, let me just check this too. Let me go to my, I'm gonna open up it. I'm gonna see if I have that one saved where I just was. I try this a couple different ways. Sometimes I just stumble a minute to remember what I gotta do here. Yeah, if I was in here, we were here, but that's awesome. It did create it. It's that one. Open it. It did make a copy that it wouldn't allow me to rename that like with an open. That's so this is good. It wouldn't allow me to like rename that. I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna rename it with the close, but this could blow up on me. Let's just see. I'll figure out the best way to do this here. I'm gonna close both of these. Let me do one thing here. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna go try to. I'm gonna go to my file system here, my file browser, and this is the one that's in there. If I rename this part, I think this will cause problems. I kind of want to do this though and just watch. If you're starting to rename stuff here, this is the connectivity is going to cause some problems here. So if I try this is the one that's on my parts list still. I control and paste that in there. I'm just going to put like a little. I got to put a little like disclaimer that's there. I've got to copy that same name in the same folder. It's not going to like that. If I rename that and I open this part, oh sorry, I shouldn't open it here. It's going to open up a new iteration of the matter. Sorry. Wait, I gotta get back to. Sorry, so I've got a few more there. That's what I want to get back to. So I have my taskbar here. Okay. And then I've got two of these iterations open, but I don't want this one. We go back into this one and do an open that part. It's probably that one there. I just want to double check that it is. It's this one. Yes. There it is. Now I don't think this is going to update my drawing though. Let me just see. Yeah, this becomes tricky that you think you're renaming this and you think it's going to change your part number name and it's not. And I've got this. Sorry, if you ever do that, it's double clicking on your thing. I think we were talking about that today in class. If you double click one of these, it kind of goes to everything you have open. It's going to share screen. So it's a nice way to just to see what you got open and jump to it really quick because you can just jump to that part really quick. Um, so renaming these files once you've got them placed in there is just actually a little bit tricky. Um, I could close everything and just see if it will accept this name, a new name. So I'm going to try one thing. I'm going to reopen what I need here. So I'm just going to try to close these out. I got a lot of stuff open I don't necessarily need. I've saved a lot of it. Yes, I want to save it. That's the assembly going through some, oh, it crashed on me. Didn't like something. It could be that naming thing that I've got going on. This is okay. This is, close this. I'm not going to send a report. That's a straight up AutoCAD crash, or sorry, Inventor crash. Mhm. I'm going to open my drawing first here. Buried. Hmm. Doesn't know where that part is. See, this is what will happen. This is good. I'm actually glad that this happened. So what it says is you've read, like I was doing, you could see I was doing some file saves as, copies as, trying to do some, just from renaming. It does cause some conflict here. So what this brings up is this resolve link, I guess, resolve dialog box. What I'm going to do is find, it's missing this. It says I can't find this. It's in my assembly, but I don't know where it is. Really, I'm opening up a drawing, but it's everything that's related to the drawing. If it doesn't know where it has, or if you've moved it out of a folder or renamed something, you'll get this dialog box where you've got to say, oh, yeah, I did do some stuff that I didn't want to do. In fact, I changed the name of some stuff. And so it's not even named this anymore. In fact, now it's kind of updating that I don't have that one as an option of a name anymore. So I can, but I do have it. It's looking in that same folder the old one lived, right? It's in that same folder. If you've moved it to another folder, it can be a little hard. You got to dig through folders. I've never moved anything to a new folder. I just renamed it and it caused this blow up. And that's okay. So what we do is we would look at it's this one. The first, I actually ended up having two, right? And so the first one I really was thinking it was going to rename. So I'm just going to say open it. And then that might, yeah, see, that took on the new name here with this super long description that I've decided to add. And if it was two road, maybe that doesn't matter. Yeah. I kind of liked it with this, with the ring above, with the number below, something like this. Um, potentially. Yeah, that's good. So I just said external X snap ring. Here's the description. It's a little bit more user friendly to some purchaser or yourself if you just want to look at a table or a schedule, to order your stuff. You want that to be populated. Um, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. So that's going to mess these two up too. It's just that I'm trying to refine my list, kind of come up with a standard part numbering sequence. That's pretty common that you'll have a I'm not saying some companies the part numbers don't jump around a little bit, but there's usually some uniformity to them. Um, so these are ugly to me, and really they belong in the description category as far as I'm concerned when it comes to uh, and that kind of applies to a lot of models that I bring in from other manufacturers. I've really kind of got to rework how I want them to show up on my prints, but still contain the ordering information, right? That's what I'm trying to preserve, and kind of adapt it and preserve it for yeah, so I'm gonna open up these other ones. So what you notice is you can open up the cool thing about your bomb here is that you can just double click on this and it's gonna open up that part. That's great, huh? And these are the ones I'm renaming. So I know I'm gonna have that little conflict, but sometimes I don't get that like resolve dialog box unless I've like closed it and I'm trying to reopen it and it's like, wait, I can't. And so you don't see that things are going on until you do that. So I'm gonna do the same thing, which was just that I open this up. I'm doing a new save as in this one, and this is my side mount one. So I'm saying that it's going to be like a snap ring, and maybe I'm going to say that this one is external side mount. I'll keep that. I can like whether these are all caps or all this bugs me too. I'm going to rename that other one again. Maybe I should have kept it. It's not the end of the world, but if I'm thinking about maybe I'll say external side mount. I just got to add the word ring or something or something. Side mount ring. So I'm kind of renaming that. I'm gonna say save. It's like okay. Save that. When I close this, it would have prompted me to save. It's not going to take on that name. I'm going to do the next one too, and I'll have to look for them both. So I'm going to open up this one. I'm just going to save this thing as file save as just a better name. This is actually an internal. So if I choose this one, I don't want to caps just to match my internal, but I'm going to say in snap ring, save it. And I'm going to close this. Maybe I'll do a quick update. I'll try to save. It'll probably give me that same error. Maybe it doesn't. It says okay. I'm going to go ahead and close it and see if I open it back up, if it will maintain that or fix my. Did I do something different in the last one? Let me close that again. Maybe save changes. No, not now. Let me look at my folder structure here. Internal snap ring, that's one of them. Oh, I keep forgetting I don't want to open there when my other things open. Sorry. Kind of fumbling. The particulars of getting these named, I always kind of forget. I just forget. This one I don't want to open. I'm gonna open this one up. Now I'm gonna open up my drawing. Okay. I've got one more solution to this. I seem to have two, so I'll show you now what I'm gonna do here. I seem to have two in my folder structure, right? I've got the one that I renamed, which I thought was just saving as trying to rename it. So I've still got my old ones and my new ones here. I'll show you how you can replace one in your model, even though it's the same flipping thing. So let me show you this. And this will update, I know for sure, my parts list. So this is a little bit in the weeds, but let me go into this, open this up. Opening up my assembly. Here's my assembly. I like my visual style to be shaded with edges. And what I have here is this little guy here. Oh, it does. Oh, that's the external one. That's definitely taken on the right name on my model browser too. These other ones have not. These other ones, like this is the external side mount one I was trying to get. It still has the old one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let me left click on, sorry, right click on that. And let me look for a minute. I am looking for component replace. So I have two different files with the same name. I just like the other file better. They're really copies of each other. And so yeah, this is a little bit in the weeds. So what just to explain what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get, here's my drawing. I'm just trying to get the right name. I don't even actually know how I got that one to work, honestly. Surprised that worked. Because I feel like what I'm going into now is pretty more common that okay, I just didn't like this naming sequence has got me all jammed up. I can't get it renamed. What the heck is going on? Just to replace it, I have a copy made. Like I did a save as. Now I have two different files, same thing. I can just replace them in my assembly by doing what I'm doing right now. So here's my assembly. Here's my snap ring that's named the right thing. So I'm going to go identify, maybe I'll identify it first. It's this internal snap ring. It's the one that's on the other side of the piston right here. So if I select that thing, right click, this is where we can do visibility, a lot of other stuff, edit this part. Yes, but one more thing is this component right here. And another huge expandable list on component, of course, this is super buried. That's why I said it's in the weeds a little bit. Replace all even, because I have like four of these things in this assembly. Yes, I'm going to replace all of these. With what? It wants to know, like, what are you replacing it with? Well, I'm going to replace it with that new named part that I created and it didn't accept. So it's like in here and it's in week 3 and it's in this way buried where I have mine. It's the internal snap ring. Yeah, this one. This is the one I want to replace. And it just did it. Now, when I open this, it should be the one that I have open, right? Not the other one. So if I open this up now, it goes to this one. So it did recognize that. And what I want to show you is in this assembly, it really doesn't know, no, this is another weird thing about doing this. I feel like I learned this late in my career, but I use it a lot anymore now. And maybe that's why I'm showing you early on. It didn't update. It did. Good. It took on the new name here. And these are what we call like browser nodes or browser names, maybe. And I just want to show you something. Sometimes you do have this weird glitch where it won't take on that new name. This one did. This one accepted my new name. Here's the one I still need to swap out. And this one swapped out good for me. Somehow I'd have to backtrack on what I even did there to get that. If I watched my own video, I could see what I did, but I forgot. So what I'm going to show you though is on that assemble tab where we ground and root stuff. Just want to show you this. This rename browser nodes will kind of take sometimes when you've replaced something in the model and the browser nodes just don't. That's what these are over here. I think these are the browser nodes. If you click this, I think that it kind of goes through like an update process or something. And I feel like that's what's brought in if when I've done some file changing, manipulating, I've got the wrong name, but I've got the right part. Sometimes just renaming the browser nodes is what will trigger that update to update and identify which actual parts it has in there. Sometimes that's what needs to happen when I have an issue opening a drawing and it can't find it, but it's looking for the right part. Maybe I need to go into the assembly that's associated with those drawings and try to rename those browser nodes. So that's weird. I mean, like just renaming and moving files in Inventor, the moral of the story is it gets a little more complicated because of how connected they are to each other. And so sometimes I end up with issues like I'm having right now. There's that one. It finally updated. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. While I'm in here, I'm going to update it with this. Um, yeah, sorry. I'm going to steal that information on that iProperties real quick. I'm just going to go in here and say, this is mostly what I want mine to say. At least from here out. Control copy. Kind of, but on my internal snap ring, I need to update its internal or its description that I want to show up on my. I don't want to say this. I want to say this. It's a 3/8 internal snap ring here, so the only thing I'm really changing is in. Maybe I will just take my caps out. Oh, but then I need its McMaster car numbers. The other thing I liked to put in here. So what I'm going to do is go over here. There's the actual. I'm not deleting this either. That's kind of nice. It kind of retains here. It doesn't show up on my print at all, that particular title, but it's nice to have in here because it's just something like if you're searching for this part or what it is, more information the better, as long as it's not conflicting information. But here, yeah, that's the actual like McMaster car order number. Now it's kind of in my description. I'm going to apply that, say close. This now should be on my drawing with a better description. Yes, there's my internal description. There's my external description. Sorry, yeah. And then I have one more external, this weird thing going on here. So I'll do that too. I already made the file, so I just need to replace it in the assembly, like replace component. Yeah, this once I learned this just became such a handy feature that that yeah, sometimes I just have to save a copy of my thing and get rid of it just to lose it. I don't know. I do this kind of work a little bit. I feel like, yeah. So here's my component replace all. There's how many of these? Just there's four of these things in here too, right? And it's the I renamed it a side mount ring. Yes, open it. And it took over all the browser nodes. So that's an accurate list of what's actually in my model. This is definitely worth saving, even though from my. Then I'm going to open that thing up. Let's open it, open it, open it. Now it's replaced. It's the one that has that name. It just doesn't have it doesn't have the iProperties updated. So I'll do that real quick too. I should still have this. Well, I have the old part number. Never mind. We'll have to fix this one. Delete it. It's McMaster card. What did I say? I think I have a mix of like, yeah. So I'm gonna hate my own. It's drawing one of the semester. Give us a break, right? McMaster car. Um, what do I have it as? An external. I'm gonna mix these. I'm gonna see if this is what I did on my last one. External side ring. It's kind of dumb name. Okay, but that's all right. Let me go over here and I'm gonna steal its at least part number, reorder number. That's the most critical. If I can recognize that as a McMaster car part number, which a lot of people can. If I've used a McMaster car and I see a number like that, I'm like, I'm gonna go type that into McMaster car and see if it comes up and it looks right. I'm gonna apply this, close this. Let me check my print. I think I'm pretty standard. I've got some caps, all caps. I've got some mix. That seems to check out with how I do things. But I'm gonna leave it. Like I said, it's drawing one. It's driving me a little crazy, but leave it. It's hitting my. What's worse is that it's hitting there worse than the letters for sure. I don't know how much can I collapse this a little bit. Yeah, maybe that. I mean, I could go all the way this way if I needed to, since I've got two lines there. I'm definitely gonna collapse my description. Or yeah, this one here can collapse quite a bit. I think I'll do even just a little bit more. I'd rather, yeah, I'll just do this. Let's go there. Looks great. I'd choose that rather than move these views. I kind of like those views actually, how they're working. Got a little more room here, but yeah. Okay. This is a good parts list. This parts list I just like better. It looks more uniform. It's not perfect. No, the font's not perfect, but I at least get materials and descriptions. That's now updated. I haven't updated this yet. I should. Let me see if it will update everything. So I'm going to come out here. I've kind of identified the plastics in it. And so let's just go to its eye properties. This is in the assembly. It doesn't know what it all weighs. It's kind of a mixed of, it's not all the same material either. There's some, metallic rings, but I don't know if their mass is being calculated in there or not, but let's close. And then this should now, I've got at least this, quite a pound. A little bit of an annoying thing about the mass is it can disappear occasionally, and you have to go into the part or the assembly and re-update it. I think it's worth adding on almost everything, though, honestly. So I'm just kind of getting happier with what I'm not really too concerned about the material or the approved box in the title block at this point. I'm happier with just with what we've covered. One thing I'm not totally happy with here yet, though, is that I've got this page named V Twin Piston Assembly. That's great. When I come to this next page, it just says copy of B size. I don't love that. And that's what my title is. I can pick a title here. Like sometimes the drawing numbers are definitely issued by your company, and there is a sequential number they may use or some type of a coded number that is more common here and how you'll be saving your file names. And then it's pretty common if that's the case that my title of my sheets get a little bit more liberty in like renaming those, but there could be a standard title sequence they want you to name your pages and how they are. I mean, maybe they always want you to say parts, or maybe they always want you to say assemblies. I don't know. I had a little bit of liberty in some of the places I worked that I could choose my titles of my sheets, not necessarily drawing number. It was definitely a sequential number for us. But so I'm going to edit this sheet. This is where I change that, and I'm going to say that these are it's like V Twin. I think I did all caps on the last one. Normally I'm all caps. I should just go to writing all caps and just be that way. It's just that sometimes when I name files, I don't name them in all caps. And that kind of drives the original, like that's the description of my parts essentially. So I get a mix. I think it's pretty common to see a mix in industry, but maybe I'll put my title as all caps for sure. V Twin Piston. Parts, I'm going to say just as I've got the liberty to name it. V Twin Piston parts is what I have. So I've got a V Twin Piston assembly title drawing sheet, and I've got a V Twin Piston parts. And I'm going to copy that name. And I think I can have multiple sheets with the same name. I don't think that's a problem. Let's see. Edit sheet. I think it'll accept this. Yes, because it's kind of keeping a sequential number, which I think keeps it unique. So you can have multiple piston part sheets like I have here. I can have multiple cut file sheets. You'll see me, we'll start creating cut files, kind of like we did for that seal plate in first semester. I think we made a DXF cut file. Yeah. So I start to name. So I do have some sheets that have the same name. And then I might have, that's the V-twin piston assembly, and then the parts associated with it. And this is a good time to I point that if this is one assembly with parts, and that's kind of how I would build prints in the mechanical world, like an assembly with its parts. And then, so if I had an assembly that was multiple sub-assemblies, then I might do an assembly and then I would pick out the and maybe I would try to prioritize which assemblies are like I wouldn't want the weakest assemblies or the most kind of insignificant sub-assemblies to be the next in my drawing sheet. I kind of drive my priority order of my drawing sheets kind of by priority of the parts or the way the assembly works. And so if I have an assembly with many sub-assemblies, then I feel like I have a drawing, an overall drawing of that assembly made out of sub-assemblies. And then my next drawing sheet might be a sub-assembly from that, one of the primary ones. And then I would maybe have the parts associated with that assembly. And then I might move on to the next prioritized subassembly and the parts associated with that subassembly. And so that's kind of how I'm going to break down my mechanical parts. It's kind of by thinking of their priority. It's even the way I kind of broke down this drawing sheet. If you look at it, right? Like I drove my assembly, then I started breaking down the primary parts. Some places can kind of break this down by the material types of the parts, maybe. I could see that categorization, but I'm just picking like a subassembly and then it's priority parts, and maybe that's why I've chosen this one as to be the second. And if I had least significant parts, they might be the next sheet down. And then if they're cut parts, like laser cut parts, plasma cut parts, they might end up at the end of all these lists on all these sheets that are called cut files that might be assembled by material type for sure. And so I feel like those kind of end up at the end of some manufacturers' drawing sheets. However, I could see them be like main assembly, then a subassembly, then parts, then cut files, then another subassembly, parts, and cut files. Some systematic way to know that, and to keep it like in a print package of, we only have 3 sheets here, but if we had 50 sheets, there's got to be a systematic approach to how somebody's going to read through it like a book, right? So if you're just bouncing all over randomly, it's not overly helpful for someone to make sense out of, your print pack. And not that you're going to come out with a perfect one. I think the people you working from your prints will help you refine it, or there might be a company standard. They've already dealt with the issues and they've got a system that works. And so, but there is a system, something there. It is thought out. It's not random, hopefully. I'm happy with my 3 sheets. I've renamed them. The only thing I'm not crazy happy with, if I just analyze them in here, I mean, I'm looking at scale. This is the only view I have there. The scale's at a 1/2. Great. What is this scale coming out at? I've got multiple views. I haven't fixed I will fix my thing before I post the image up online. I'm going to fix my piston drawing and replace those views a little bit and work them over. But I don't love that this scale on the sheet says 1/2, and I've got a 1/2 scale, but I've also got a 1-to-1 scale. And so but I like the 1-to-ones. I like these. I just want my scale on my title block to probably say not applicable or something. And so now you're going to ask me where I switch that at. Yeah, exactly. On this sheet, I think it's within this sheet. And is it in? It might be in the edit the sheet thing. If I don't know what other. I'm gonna have to look for it. But I think I want to eliminate the scale. I think your sheets are going to accept the scale in the title block of the first one I think you place on here. I think that's always the default. And so I mean, I do have a way to get into the field text here. Is this it? If it's grayed out, I really see it's driving. It's the initial view scales, what's pulled in. Um, yeah, so it's not like I go in here and I look for I look for where this information's pulling from, and there's quite a few different places it can be. But yeah, this is where I'm actually looking. I'm looking through all of those right now. But really, even these edit property fields, they're all being pulled from somewhere else. So I can't. If I select this one, what is this? Oh yeah, it just goes to what those are specifically. Wait, so let me think. Cancel. Because if you just click into here, sorry if I'm looking to edit this. That is just how you would edit this definition. But I'm not going to go in here and edit these or change that here. No, no, no. That's like this is a template. This is somebody that's managing templates to mess with this stuff here for sure, which really is my job as us. But have I looked into this? I'll see if I can figure it out and find it for you next week. I'm not going to go to the I properties of this and change anything here. No, it's just in one of my properties. In I'll find it. I'm just going to end this video here, though. This is my 5th video on this assignment, and I'm about there, and I'll help you guys get there too. So I just make sure I do a quick, like, the way I save any kind of modifications, just always save it from your drawing and always go through and save everything. And then sometimes if things have been saved that you haven't opened for a while, a part or something, it'll usually when you open that, it'll be like, do you want to accept the updates? And you'll say yes. It just means that you've done something to an assembly or a drawing that have affected the part that's associated with those, and it'll ask for an update when it opens. And that's pretty standard. You don't necessarily have to have them all open, like every part on a drawing set, that's not realistic. So, and that's why these are not asking me to save, is because the drawing just saved it. I generally get to my first page when I end up saving finally. I think whatever page you are, like whatever sheet you're on when you save, might be what it comes to when it opens. I can't remember for sure. I mean, I like it when it opens to my first sheet if I'm going back into my drawing and closing it. But yeah, we're getting there, right? It's pretty much all dimensioned. Yeah, I think this is pretty much, it kind of wraps up, other than maybe I'll fix my scale, but it's a small detail. I didn't expect this to be the first perfect ASME standard right out the gate, but I think it's a good entry into here. There's one last video. There will be a part 6 out. I just remembered. It'll be the tolerance, like fixing the tolerance that works for our 3D printer, which we will do together. Like I will record that as I go back in. And when I do that, I might adjust some of the precision of the dimensions to reflect those pretty tight tolerances in some cases here. We'll just see what we do in that video. But I'm not super worried about I'm worried about getting dimensions on there, but I'm not actually at this point. I'm not worried if they are logically making sense. I'm okay if it's kind of in its default mode, and we'll refine this as we go through this semester to get it something a little bit closer to ASME standard for sure. And that's it, you guys.